What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today on the show, we're going to talk about Kamen Rider Gav, episode 12. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Josh, last week I said I was going to delineate a list of all the minor upsettings in my life that I'm not thankful for. I've made a slight mental swerve in the true nature of the holiday. And instead, we're going to talk about two things I'm thankful for. And those are Pokemon and prescription drugs. So, Josh, we're going to play a game where I give you a word and you tell me if it's a prescription drug or a Pokemon.
Oh, this is amazing. Okay.
So I did my best to the drug names. I at least can give you a generic description of what the drug is for.
Okay.
But those words don't mean anything to me either. And I wasn't going to go down like a dark hole and try to figure out every word.
Sure.
So we're going to try to keep it top level.
Yeah.
But we're going to play Pokemon versus drugs.
Okay. Pokemon versus drugs.
Are you ready?
Yeah. I find Pokemon and drugs together are often the best form. Yeah. Okay.
Pikachu talks to you. He doesn't even just say Pika anymore. He's like, what are you doing with your life?
He's like, hey, bitch. Sorry. All right, go on.
I don't know how to do that.
I maybe broke myself at the idea, the thought of Pikachu just saying, hey, bitch, in a deep voice. Okay. All right, I'm ready.
It's like the little kid Granute. All of a sudden he's like looks happy and he's just like, give me fucking candy.
That might be why that's in my head so much. Is yeah, cute things saying things in deep voices. Yeah, I think that's what it is. All right, I'm ready to play.
So this is also going to be like when we make fun of Josh for not being able to speak Japanese. Because these are, I guess, technically English words that I'm not going to be able to pronounce because they are just convoluted prescription words.
Or Pokemon.
The Pokemon can probably handle better than the drugs.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
For the first one, Zemdry.
Zemdry is a Pokemon.
It is a drug.
Damn it.
It is a aminoglycoside antibiotic.
Okay, that's a good one because that seemed very Pokemon-like. Like, I was almost certain that I had heard of that Pokemon.
I did the best I could to try to some are probably a little bit easier because they're like spin-offs of Pokemon, some would say.
Okay.
But I think most of this list is pretty hard to tell. Next one, Bibarel.
Say it one more time.
Bibarel.
Are there any accents on any of the letters?
Not Notepad++. There's not.
I think that's a Pokemon.
It is a water Pokemon. So
yeah.
It's probably a newer one.
All right, got it.
The next one, Zofluza.
See, this is hard because it's got flu right there in the name. But that could be a red herring and could be a Pokemon that has flu in the name. But I think I'm going to go with my gut, which is it has flu in the name. It's going to be a medication.
Yeah, it's a flu. It's a flu drug.
Nice. All right.
All right, next is Vabomere.
Vabomere. Again, sounds very much like a Pokemon, but I don't recognize it, which either means it's from any of the 9 games that have come out since Red and Blue, or it's a drug. I'm going to guess a drug on this one.
Yes, it's a carbapenem antibiotic and beta lactamase inhibitor.
Oh, sometimes you just need your batamases inhibited.
Yeah, again, and I like that's like 5 words right there that I could have looked up to try to break down what that meant more. But I'm not going to. Yeah, no, it's not that important. Next one, Zurava.
That's a Pokemon.
It's a fancy version of tetracycline, which is I think
not
what
a Pokemon.
Clears up skin.
It sounded like a legendary to me. It's like, oh, that's like that fancy dog you have to catch. Pretty sure his name is Zurava.
Your friendly reminder: there's like 1,300 Pokemon as we play this game.
Yep.
The next one, Starava.
That's the Pokemon.
That is a flying bird Pokemon.
Yeah, got there.
This next one's probably a gimme. Carnivine.
That's got to be a Pokemon portmanteau. Has to be.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
Venus flytrap Pokemon.
Yeah, I was like, that's too on the nose for how they name Pokemon.
The next one, it's either Previmus or Previmus.
Ooh, I think that's a medication.
Is a antiviral medication for cytomegalovirus.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard of that one even.
The next one, Delstrigo.
Say it one more time.
Delstrigo.
Say it again, but without the dumb voice.
That's just my voice, sir. Delstrigo.
Delstrigo. Completely 50-50 guess on this one, but I'm gonna guess
as they all are.
Yeah.
For the
yeah, that's true.
No, it's a medication. It's a mix of Doravirine, Lamidudine, and Tenofovir.
See, all of those sound
like
more like medications. Well, no,
they also sound like Pokemon.
They do. Actually, that's very true.
All right, next one, Empoleon.
Oh, that's I'm gonna be really upset if I'm wrong, but I think that's an Eevee evolution. I think that's a Pokemon.
I believe so. It's a Water Steel Pokemon. I didn't even look into like if the Pokemons are evolutions or not. I just got the base level of like what generic, much like a generic drug. I just got the generic of the Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
Next one, Giratina.
Oh, that's a Pokemon for sure. I know that one for a fact.
Okay, that is a Ghost Dragon one.
Yeah.
Next one, Luxio.
Also a Pokemon that I know for a fact.
Okay. Next one, Nuzeria.
Ooh. I'll say drug on this one.
It is another type of tetracycline. Again, I think that's a skin thing. I'm not 100% sure. Next one, Mavaret.
Mavaret is an interesting ending because it sounds more Pokemon to me. Mavaret. But also, I guess it does kind of sound. I can see someone saying that in a commercial
With a catchy jingle.
Yeah, Mavaret.
Did you ever see real quick? Did you ever see the Sky Rizzy commercials?
I don't think so.
So Sky Rizzy has had musical jingles for, I think they clear up eczema, like skin, like dry skin rationing.
Yeah.
They have the catchiest goddamn jingle ever, where I can basically hear it in my head as we're talking about it. I'm not going to sing it, but like they managed to rhyme words about like clearing up your skin while on this medication and living your best life. And it's the craziest goddamn thing.
That sounds fun. I'm going to guess medication for this one.
It is a hepatitis C drug.
Yeah, got it.
The next one, Zygarde.
Pokemon.
Is a ground/dragon type Pokemon.
I was right. I thought I remembered that one.
The next one, Calbator.
Calbator. That's a drug.
It treats sudden attacks of hereditary angioedema.
Treats sudden attacks of not knowing any goddamn Pokemon.
And finally, the last one is Firazyr.
Also a drug.
Also treats sudden attacks of hereditary angioedema.
Nice. Oh man, that's awesome. That was very, very hard. I also am a person, I've learned this about myself as I've gotten older, that I don't know if it means that I'm a visual learner or what it means, but I retain images in my brain way better than names of things. So like, for example, playing Magic, I will remember the art for a card, but not the name of a card. So like, I can tell you like what card I'm looking for. I'm like, oh yeah, it's the card that has like such and such on it. And like, you know, has this guy and he's kind of off to the side of the art and this is green. And like, I can describe the art to a perfect T, but then I just can't remember the name of the card at all. And same with Pokemon. I feel like I remember what Pokemon look like, but I'm like awful at like remembering names of them.
I think that would be visual learning. I don't know if the fact that you're not retaining what goes with the picture to be like
that just means I'm stupid. Like... yeah. Yeah. It actually has been really hard. You know, I don't play much Magic anymore and mostly off of that game because it's gone super downhill and they're really like milking it for cash and all this stuff. But one of the ways in which they've been milking that game for cash is they have put out more and more and more like special versions of cards, like special printings and all kinds of crazy stuff. So now, like, before you could play a card and it would generally have the same art most of the time, because there was like one printing of it, or when they reprinted it, they used the same art. And now it's like, who the hell knows? You could play a card and you might have the like the Jurassic Park version of it that came out in a secret lair 2 years ago or something. So my ability to recognize cards just by their art is just completely gone now because everyone has different art all the time. Uh,
Is that like the Assassin's Creed cards I got? Like the same vibe since there were actual cards in there?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
just
some of them,
put all
yeah,
these wacky things and then it all goes
yeah,
to shit.
yeah. So there's two things kind of related to that. So like sometimes they will reprint the cards with different art, like those, like in some cases to like match the Assassin's Creed theme. They'll have Assassin's Creed art for an existing card. And then sometimes they'll go even further, which is the really annoying one, where they'll take an existing card and make like an Assassin's Creed version of it, and then give it a different name, but put its real name underneath the first name. So it'll be like you can call this card, like Assassin's Blade if you want, but really it's Doomblade. So like it
Are you allowed to double up then?
no,
Like
so it
can you run 4 Assassin's Blade and 4 Doomblades?
No, as far as, like, deck building, it counts for its, like, air quotes, "real magic name,"
Okay.
but, like, for flavor, and stuff, then it has the other name. Um, and that is, like that wreaks havoc for me, of course, in actually trying to play the game, and, like, I'm assuming that's a nightmare for, like, any sort of online resource that's trying to, like, show you cards and give you a card search engine and stuff. That's gotta be terrible. But yeah, that's the thing they've been doing lately. So they put out a bunch of Godzilla cards, and at the time, I thought it was cool because it was like, "Hey, it's Godzilla in my Magic. That's neat." And then they started doing it constantly. But they put out a bunch of like kaiju Godzilla cards where they had the Godzilla name at the top, the monster name at the top, and then at the bottom it was like the real Magic name of the card that they were sort of reprinting. Um, and they've just run with it since then. Yeah,
They made a whole career out of it.
made a whole career. Yeah. Very fun game, Toby. I liked that a lot. I also am thankful for Pokemon and medication as well. If you out there need either drugs or Pokemon, I encourage you to seek both out.
Yeah, one's probably way cheaper than the other too.
That's true. Yeah, drugs are pretty easy to come by, and Pokemon is the cost is high.
I feel like now that like COVID Direct is over, I feel like we flip back to the better timeline where the Pokemon are easy to find.
Yeah, you know how like the Reddit app. I hate this in general about social media, but like Reddit's really bad about it. Where if you click on a post for a subreddit that you don't follow, the Reddit app will be like, "Oh, you like this?" and will just show it to you constantly from that point on. Um, it does that for me with like, I clicked on a thing for the Pokemon Finance subreddit one time
What the
because
fuck is that?
it's people who buy Pokemon cards for like the sole purpose of like making money from them. Like
Oh, so
they,
like so what I do.
well, yeah, I mean, I guess, but like, yeah, it is. Yeah, but like to a huge degree where like you're buying like a box of cards and we're opening it together. They're buying like as many as the store has. Like they're trying to be the first ones in the door and buy a store out so no one else can get them so they can hoard the product and never open it. Um so
I
like they're
feel
they're on
like
a whole different level.
yeah, but like I feel like in general, like the last super rare thing was like the Pikachu Vincent Van Gogh card that was special to Pokemon Museum and
Yeah.
visiting the Louvre or where the hell it was from. But like if I bought, I think the last set is like Surging Sparks, or they all have really similar names now. I get confused.
I think that's
But
the
you know,
most
if I
recent one,
bought
yeah.
20 of those boxes, like I feel like there's no value, like there's no bonus value in that if I try to sell one of those boxes. I feel like they're everywhere.
Well, I think people are trying to get them and hold on to them for a while. So if, because it's like if you have a box of, you know, jungle or fossil or whatever the one of the first 3 or 4 sets was, it's worth an insane amount now. So I think they're trying to like get them and hold them. But the thing I saw recently was, and it was just like during COVID, where it was I think Costco, and they had put out like a special pack that I think was of course cheaper because it was at Costco, and people literally were like they tore down the display trying to grab them as quick as they could in a giant like tickle me Elmo style stampede.
Those are the good old days.
Yeah.
Fuck Amazon. Let's go back to killing each other on Black Friday.
And I haven't seen a video of someone killing each other Black Friday style for a long time. And like that Pokemon one was like, holy crap, like you guys are in it still. Like you guys are out here doing it, I guess.
But like those kind of people are like, I feel anything that is, there was a wave where more so when I was growing up, but you probably caught the cusp, like the tail end of it. There was a time when collecting things did have value because not everyone did it and didn't trigger their brain to go like, this is a collector's thing. If I just buy this and hold this, it'll be worth money someday. And I feel like almost everything that's collectible or was is no longer collectible
Yeah,
because
agreed.
everyone just buys everything with the thoughts of, oh, I'm going to keep this, blah, blah, blah. And they don't think about the fact that coming out of the back end of it, if you buy the dumbest shit, like it doesn't matter if you had it for 20 years,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be worth anything in 20 years, or be worth the same, or maybe even less, like yard sale vibes, or God only knows what.
Well, I think everybody started to see some of those early 80s toys be like super expensive in price if you had like a good condition one and stuff. People started to see that kind of stuff. And then that sort of kicked all this off. And the first one I remember that was like people clamoring for it as it was new with the idea that they're going to save it and it'll be collectible and be worth money in the future was the Beanie Babies craze.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that one,
that
you
was
look back
huge.
now, those aren't worth anything. Like,
Exactly. Like that's the first, I'm gonna call it a market. That's the first like futures market that I
yes,
remember blowing up dramatically. Because when I was, it would have been like my mid teenage years to like early 20s. That's when they did have the Beanie Babies still that were worth like, oh, so and so octopus is worth $10,000, and people were like all about it with their cases, and you had the little special case for the tie
the
tag.
heart tag. Yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't fall off. And I remember that being a whole thing. And just out of nowhere one day, I remember just like seeing online, like, yeah, Babies aren't worth shit anymore. It doesn't really
No.
matter which one you had. Like, they're all just not worth anything.
Yep. Yeah, as a kid who, was about the right age and I actually liked playing with Beanie Babies as toys, but I was old enough to understand that they were this like big booming collector's market. That was the thing that radicalized me towards like scalpers and stuff. And it wasn't like magic cards or anything, Pokemon cards years later. It was freaking Beanie Babies. That was like, I wish these idiot adults would stop buying up all the good toys so that I could get the Beanie Baby I want. That's what started it. But yeah, like nowadays, yeah, I think the Pokemon stuff is better. It got terrible during COVID. But yeah, I still see videos once in a while of people just like tackling each other just to buy freaking Pokemon cards. That's an insane thing.
That's insane. And like, this will be the end of the Pokemon tangent for the day. There's even been a bunch of articles recently where in like the past 2 years, I started rebuying the cards more actively. And I feel like the sets were slower coming out in the past couple years
Yeah.
until like the last year. And now it's consistently like every 3 months there's a new expansion.
Yep.
And pretty much every 3 months when people talk about the new set, they're like, oh yeah, they made this set fancy and the shiny drops are 5% higher. So none of the cards are really worth anything. And it's messing up like the brick and mortar stores and everything else. So like people have oversaturated it so much that like the Pokemon company prints the cards, gets their base level value out of them, but they're not really worth anything coming out of the back end. Like,
Which good for people who are playing the Pokemon card game. Like
I
that's
guess that's
great for
true.
them. Like
I
because
guess
that's
they fixed that problem.
yeah. But honestly, and that's like for me as a player of trading card games is like best case scenario. That's what I always wanted Magic to do. Was like print a ton, like reprint a ton. So that way it's cheap to buy the cards to play, and all the people who are buying just to like speculate don't bother because it's not worth it. And I think Pokemon is like they've worked really hard to get to that point. So yeah, it's like I think yeah, starting to piss off the finance people, but if you are a kid who's just trying to play some freaking Pokemon. But the weird thing with Pokemon is that it's developed this like almost like collector first thing about it as well, where people kind of forget it's even a card game. Like, it's people who just buy it to collect it and slab the cards and get them graded and stuff. So, um, they might have a more uphill battle because of that, because I think that's their main audience at this point.
Yes, like
But
looking at this most recent set, there is extremely crazy artwork to Pikachu, which of
yep,
course is worth money. That's the most expensive card. There's a second a little less crazy looking Pikachu, which is the second most valued card, but it's already at $100. And then going down from there, they're all like sub 40 for the super rare full art, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And that's
So
way cheaper than it used to be for a lot of this other shit.
so I guess yeah, the good thing that they're doing, and we've talked about this on our Pokemon openings and stuff, but like there's that crazy insane Pikachu that's like over $100, but that is a in those sets, it's always a version, it's a fancier version of a card that exists in the set as a cheaper version too. So if you wanted to get that card just to play it, you can get the much cheaper one, and that's awesome. I love that they do that. But the other flip side is it's becoming much more just full on gambling where you are just ripping packs trying to get the one chase card. And it's not like an overall like value is spread throughout the set, which I feel like is how more it used to be. Now it's just like there's one just spike, and I'm just trying to hit that one spike. And if I hit it, great. If I don't, then I lost a bunch of money. Um, which I'm sure makes it much more exciting for like, box breaks and stuff like that where people watch this stuff online. But um, it certainly makes less of a reason for the average person just to crack backs. That is for sure. But Magic's doing the same thing with the like super super fast releases. I'm pretty sure this next year Magic's gonna have like a set per month, which is insane. I don't know how anyone possibly keeps up with that release
They're definitely
cycle.
they're breaking the game. There's just too
Yeah,
many cards. Well, especially to like with all these things, like there's only like so many tweaks and perks and things you can do to cards. So I'm sure at this point, like if you actually looked, there's probably 1,000 base ass like 1/1 deal 1 damage
yeah,
cards, commons, and you have to put like, to use like the Pokemon example, even if every Pokemon by name was like its own magic card, like that was like a 1/1 crappy common, like who the fuck cares at some point? Other
yeah.
than like, hey, we're modern is only the last 3 sets, so by the way, Pikachu's out, but Pichu's in, but it's the same card. Don't worry about it. Blah blah blah.
Same card, different name. Yeah. Yeah, with Magic and with Pokemon, there's like there's whole giant swaths of any set that comes out that if you're playing for like a competitive deck building, you can just like ignore those cards. So yeah, like in Magic, it's all the generic cards that don't have any text other than like power and toughness. And I was like, well, you're never gonna run one of those over a card that actually does something, so just ignore those. And yeah, in Pokemon, it's kind of the same thing. It's like just the generic, like I have 2 attacks and they don't do anything special, and I have no abilities. Like you can probably just ignore me unless you specifically need me for an evolution line or something. But anywho, that's a lot about Pokemon. Let's jump into
That can be Pokemon talk. We'll
let's
wrap it for the day.
jump into talking about Common right here. We got a lot to talk about. But first thing I want to talk about, Toby, is our Patreon. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/the comment writers. If you would like to check that out, our Patreon is pretty cool. First up, you get access to our Discord if you sign up for the Patreon. Discord is a fun place where you can hang out and chat all week long, talk to us, talk to the rest of the community. It's super fun. And sometimes there are nightmares like toilet hot dogs to also talk about. And you also, along with the Discord access, you get access to our bonus content, which is typically it is you and I watching some sort of tokusatsu. Right now, we're watching Super Sentai Boon Boomjer. I'm loving that, and we are also watching through Common Rider O's. We have a complicated relationship with that, but it's certainly fun to watch together. In the past, we've watched Kamen Rider Black Sun. And yeah, we'll have to pick something new out when we finish up with O's as well. But um, yeah, we watch these old shows. Sometimes we open Pokemon cards and put that up there. All kinds of stuff. Right now, we have a ton of stuff to watch. You can sign up and watch all of our X-Aid watch through, for example. So $3 a month gets you access to all of that. And if you sign up now, again, you get access to all the past stuff. So you can spend your entire Christmas break catching up in the entire Toby and Josh multiverse. It's wonderful. So again, patreon.com/the comment writers gets you over to check that out. And one thing that you can do if you're in the Discord, Toby, is you can ask us questions over in the episode questions chat. We do have a question this week that comes in from Liv, And Liv says, "Do you have any plans for Comment Rider merch?" Um, so merch stuff for Comment Rider, the show. Toby, do you have any merch ideas for us?
I mean, a long time ago, we had someone make us the helmets that way back in the Geats days. We were both like, if we were a Kamen Rider, this would be our thing.
Yeah.
The issue I find is all the sites that do these things, I feel like don't make as much sense to me as they used to. So it's hard
Okay.
to like nicely make a shirt.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, I think we are still sub tier in the we could swing our own merch and actually like make stuff and have people enjoy it
Yeah.
versus hey, go to Zazzle and buy it from them, pay like $30, and from our aspect of it, like, hey, we'll make $1 and
Yeah.
now you overpaid this website for nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right yet.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
would do it, but I'd want to do something cool or at least like valuable that we can like have chase cards or maybe, you know. But like I don't think there's a not even the profit part to it. I don't think there's a good balance of I would feel good asking someone to buy this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think that you know, we just aren't a big enough show yet to do the, we're gonna front the cost for a merch run, and we know that we are gonna sell enough to make our money back really yet. Which means we would have to do something along the lines of, like you said, like a Redbubble or a Zazzle or something. And those are, I'm not gonna say scam, but like enough of a not good experience generally for the buyer that it's not something we want to really dive into. Because we know we've like messed with that stuff in the past, and it's like it's fine, but like we don't have any control over like the quality of it and stuff like that. We're basically just uploading an image, and you're buying a shirt, and it's kind of going through all their process, and you're paying it a huge amount, like Toby said, and we're getting next to nothing from it. So it's like it's sort of lose lose kind of on both sides of that equation. Um, but yeah, I mean, like it would be awesome to have Comment Rider merch at some point. I mean, um, the show's growing, and the Patreon is steadily growing, which is good. So if that keeps happening, then we could do some merch down the line for sure. I could see like at some point if we had something a cool idea and we knew we could do like a limited run of it, we could maybe do like pre-orders for something up front and then like place an order basically once we kind of had everybody in if people were interested in it. So I guess yeah, if you're out there and you want to see Comment Writer merch and maybe you have a cool idea of what you think that should be, let us know and we can kind of pencil it into the future if anything like that ends up happening. But yeah, I guess that's the merch answer.
That's the sales pitch. That's the
Yeah.
reverse sales pitch.
Yeah, I obviously would like to do something, cool. Like I think that I think the Yard does a good job at it. Not to constantly bring them up, but they do like merch drops where it's like they'll do like the winter drop. Well, they'll design a few different things and you can go buy them and it's limited. They're not going to be available forever, but like they actually have like the items in hand and they have sourced them and made sure that they're good before that they send them out and stuff. So that would be the perfect ideal, but obviously we're not as large as they are, in terms of listenership. But maybe one day, who knows? All right. Well, we'll jump into some more emails maybe after we talk about Gav, but I want to dive into the episode here first because yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I think in this episode. So we watched Kamen Rider Gav episode 12. This episode, hilariously, Toby, was entitled "The Donut Knot That Ties Us Together," which is a little sexual sounding, I think, to me personally.
The most of this episode was very steamy in dark rooms and shirtless and
Oh man.
sexy smoldering talk and looks and eyes and all the things.
I watched this show last night, and then as soon as it was over, I had to go into our Gav spoilers channel, and I had to type the sentence, "You could cut the sexual tension in this episode with a knife," because I had to get that thought out before I went to sleep. Because holy cow, yes, this turns into essentially a boy's love for this episode. It becomes like a will they won't they between Hanto and Shoma. So what happens here is the one thing that you and I did not predict last week, which is that Shoma just decides to just fucking tell him. Just right away, Shoma's like, "Oh, by the way, thanks for accidentally revealing your secret identity. Here's mine." And he de-engines and shows Hanto who he is, which is the
And
most Shoma-ass thing that he's ever done, I think.
it is like he's such like a he's a pure simple boy, and I mean, and like Hanto at least like kind of he did the thing where he kind of leveraged it as like I'll show you yours if you I'll show you mine if you show me yours kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like Hanto was like, well, I dehensioned, and who are you? Like you even called me like blah 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 san or kun or
yeah.
one of the
Mr. Karakita, you said my name, basically. Is
yeah. But
what he's.
well, he's like, yeah, you hit me with an honorific, so I know you know me. So he's like, I don't appreciate that you have your mask on still. And Shoma's just like, okay, yeah, that's fair, and just like dehensions.
Yep. Such a Shoma move for sure. Hanto takes it pretty well, but he's beaten up pretty bad too. So Shoma takes him back to their little workplace basically and attempts to bandage him up and does the most hilarious bandage job that you could possibly imagine.
It's like a
Um,
Halloween mummy, but with
quite
bandages.
very true. And this is really where like the deeply homoerotic scenes begin. And I'm not pointing them out to make fun of them, but I do think it's important for me to highlight how many there were, how many things happen in this episode that I feel like you just can't deny are intended to be like flirtatious. um so like there's the whole bandaging him up thing where, you know, obviously he has to get his shirt off and like touch him all over for the bandage. And then at one point he's like clearly wanting to check his stomach to see if he has a gavv or not, but he's just sort of like reaching towards his general like genital area from the shot that they do.
I feel like you're escalating this now.
And then let me just keep going.
He- yeah. Josh is writing. Josh is live blocking slash fic right now.
and then he so Hanto like of course has like in a moment where he's like angry, basically like, why did you save me? Like you could have should have taken out the granute. And he pushes Shoma down over a table, and they're like on top of each other on this table where Shoma is, or Hanto rather, is like screaming and then crying. And this is where Shoma tells him like basically, hey, if I had not saved you, if you had sacrificed yourself, you wouldn't be around to continue to save people. Like, and that's where kind of Hanto breaks from that point. But like, he's literally cradling him. They're on top of each other. Um, and then the most hilarious one at the end of the episode, the sort of like transition scene at the end of the episode, seconds after they have the like, well, hey, I guess it'll be nice to have somebody around who gets me. They have that little cute scene. In the little transition scene, they are literally tickling each other in the background. Did you see that?
Yeah, you just. I wish I could pretend like you were just like literally just making things up in your brain, just like haha, and then they did this and making it a weird thing. But yeah, like the Gachizos were dancing around on the table, celebrating their newfound friendship with their friends, and they're like, yeah, like they're tickle fighting in the
They're
kitchen,
having a tickle
basically.
fight. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. This is awesome. This it's like it's very progressive. It just the show pivoted pretty hard into like, oh, it's not going to be about Shoma and like Sachika as a will they won't they. It's going to be I feel like it's going to be Shoma and Hanto at this point. And if that's the case, man, this is awesome. I think it's cool. But it just very much the vibe felt like we transitioned into like a boys' love or something for this episode. I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts because obviously, like, I don't know, but it was interesting. I thought it was interesting this episode that was such a it felt like for me such a front and center focal point of this whole episode. They also Toby are in the Dead Moms Club together. They had that revelation.
Yeah, they bonded. Like
Yeah.
during their sultry table pin down, Shoma was like, I don't want to see any more people die in front of me, like my mom. And then Hanto was like, yeah, my mom plus a ton of others. Like I just see people die all the time. And at least in the final tickle fight wrap up, I guess the last extended when will they do X thing part of their friendship now is Shoma's now battling, instead of like, do I tell this person who I am? The new battle is, well, I'm actually an alien and he's
Yeah.
a human that had surgery, but he thinks I'm a human that had surgery too. So I guess that could be like when it's the time of the year where I'm forced to watch lots of stupid Hallmark movies, and there's always the last act mini fight where they, instead of talking for 30 seconds, they grumble off because they misread a situation. And this is going to be Shoma and Hanto's thing, where like at one point Hanto's going to be like, wait, you're an alien though? And Shoma's going to be like, yeah, I thought you knew that, or blah blah blah, and it's all going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So I think like the last like inner fight that those two could have at this point is just the, wait, you're not a person like I am kind of thing.
Not only are you not a person, you're a granute, and I hate all granutes. Yeah. There was a good moment in this for sure, where Hanto does his like, we're gonna kill all the granutes, we're gonna take them down, thinking he's got like this new ally in front of him. And Shoma, they do a great job of showing him tugging on his hoodie. Like basically it's like really trying to hide his gav as best he can. And that was a really cool, like wordless way to show how nervous he was about that happening. I thought that was really cool.
Tied to his gab for this, Shoma's gab this week as well. One of my favorite goofy little side giggle things was the fact that when he brushes his teeth, he brushes his gav's teeth too. Like
Yes.
it's like an actual like mouth, like a real mouth with teeth. Like the dental hygiene of his stomach has to be tip top shape at all times. And
Yeah, that's great. And then of course almost get caught for it too. Sachika comes in and he's gotta be like, oh, I wasn't doing anything weird, brushing my teeth. Just, just being normal over here, just being a human, being a regular human guy.
I think the next thing with her and him, or her and them, is at some point, obviously I feel like we still need to reveal to her of like, oh, by the way, we're both assorted types of weird monster human hunter things. And I feel like she's just gonna hit them both with like the, no, I knew for a while kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like it's not
Yeah.
even gonna be a thing to her. Like she's just, because Kanto even makes a comment like, oh, blah blah blah, Sachika might feel weird, might feel different about you, if, or she wouldn't worry as much if she knew you could take care of yourself, or knew you're a common rider. And then he's like, no, she'd probably be the same way either way. So they already laid the like the trap, so to speak, of, oh, like no matter what happens, Sasha's just gonna be like, oh yeah, you two are my friends, I don't really care, like
Yeah.
no big deal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I agree. I think that would be a cool way to play that, is her to just be like, yeah, I figured it out. We're good. The other interesting thing from all of this, the two of them feeling each other out, I guess, was the moment where Hanto pulls out the picture of his mom and Shoma's brain hurts. Basically, he gets like a crazy pain and like he has to like look away. And he's like, "Oh, what was that?" So I ask you the question: what was that, Toby?
he he's going through butterfly effect like symptoms of every time he uses powers, his head hurts a little bit more, and one day his brain's gonna explode.
Do you think there's any chance that they're brothers? That was his mom in the picture as well.
I mean, I will back you on this crazy theory. I feel like Shoma and his mom's relationship seemed open enough where I feel like she would have hit him with, find your brother down on Earth if you ever get down there,
I
instead
would
of
have
just
thought.
like, hey,
Yeah.
your dad's kind of a nightmare person, but I'll protect you. But I mean, the show can do anything at once too, so this definitely works.
That's true. I want this to be um a parent mystery that gets solved in a common writer instead of like the dad from Gotchard, where they never actually answer any of the questions and then we move on. I hope they explain that further. I also wrote down one of the little plot points that's important to talk about is what's going on over in Granute World. So we have to keep up with Longo and all of his leading of the Stomach family. And a couple big things are happening. First up is that Longo has enlisted Glotta. She's back on the show, and she's going to help him out with his basically he's going to increase the part-time staff and look for new standouts that they can uh seemingly wreak some havoc with, I think is what's going on. He's looking to form an army is what it feels like here.
He even had a sick checklist that was all in Japanese.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some industrious person or anyone that can, in Japan that can read Japanese, like there's probably cool information on there, or probably that feels like the kind of thing where they would hide a nod to a different Kamen Rider series or a different Kamen Rider just for fun
Oh yeah.
of like some kind of thing. So like maybe we're missing something with that. But since you mentioned Glada, there was also a nice feet shot earlier in this episode as well. So I'm glad that we're keeping the dream alive, even if it's different people.
Yeah, this is just the horny episode apparently. And then also with the Stomach family, the Stomach twins are basically kicked out. They're kind of they were sitting in a hideout, and a couple of the agents show up, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, you have to leave. This is only for Stomach family members, and you're no longer members of the family. So peace out." And they kind of kick him out a door, and the twins are kind of ousted, and they are vowing vengeance on Shoma. So we thought that they might, hate Longo and want to team up with Shoma, but that seems like the opposite is happening. They're going
No,
to come with
that
a vengeance.
that's how these shows set it up. The Abyssal Sisters hated all of the damn alchemy kids, and look how that turned out.
That's fair. That's fair.
My favorite part of when they got found in their little hideout and the agents showed up and were like, "Yeah, you're really not supposed to be here." It was the most mellow conversation or like tone of voice that they used when they told them they had to leave. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't an argument, it wasn't a fight. Like the agents just like calmly, like person to person, were like, "No, I know you used to stay here, but you're not part of the family or not part of the corporation anymore. So you just have to go."
He sounded
And it's like
sad, like the
it's
the
just
one
like yeah,
agent. Yeah. Because I think he even goes like before he says it, he like there's a big sigh where he's sort of like you could tell doesn't want to have to do it. So yeah, that it was interesting. Yeah, that they weren't just sort of like mindless automatons doing their job. There was a little bit of compassion for
well,
the twins.
didn't we? I feel like we saw weeks and weeks ago at this point. I feel like they spawn the agents.
They do,
Like I feel
yeah.
like the family themselves spawn the agents. So like they're probably specifically like the twins guards, and then they're
I think
just like, no, you actually have to go now though. Like it
yeah.
probably feels weird, like kicking your child out in the streets, the rainy, cold streets of Japan.
Yep, totally. Which is a fun little detail there. And then, of course, Toby, the other big thing that happens this episode is Sachika is still on the case of the catfish because she doesn't understand. She doesn't know that it was a granute. She doesn't know how all that goes. So she has been working on catfishing the guy that she thinks is the catfish.
And she did a fantastic job. She ran her own sting operation of like, no, like we can look all these things. We can match these. All if I cross reference all these quotes, all these people line up to the same person. At one point, she was like, she basically said like he picks up the girls and spouts global warming information or misinformation, which I thought was like a random throwaway nod to nothing.
Yeah.
But that was interesting, and like her whole vibe situation was like she really cares about these two girls, the one that got catfished and her sister, because they basically have a sleepover party and talk about how cool Kamen Riders are and everything. When she eventually, when that arc wraps up, when she helps with the catfishing, uh, Shoma, in his greatest role yet, dresses up like a pretty lady with flip flops and the little toesies out.
Incredible.
It was
Absolutely incredible here.
I was trying to figure out what girl it was, and I was
He
like, it doesn't look like Sachika, so I kind
he's
of like,
he's he's just up like the picture that she was sending to people.
okay,
Because they very quickly in that sequence where she's explaining all this to him, they flash to an image of her that she was DMing the people with. So it's like her in that crazy outfit that she was sending to people. So she intentionally made it not look like herself, but made it look like her disguise essentially.
yeah. So I
Um,
thought it was awesome that like Shoma just stepped up and played the role, and when
yeah,
the tongue went for him, he dodged it, and then it was just weird. Like that reveal was amazing. And then the weird little kid, the shocked Pikachu kid that was like, "This is bullshit. I didn't realize this was a sting." Then they got in a little battle. Common Rider, Common Rider Ing was ridered. We can talk about the new outfits after this, but like the last part of the Sachika is gonna know. Of course, it's the two of them kind of stuff deal. They did the dumbest thing where they took videotape home, showed Sachika and the two girls like, "Look, we killed the monster," or "Look, the Kamen Riders killed the monster. That's so cool. The Kamen Riders are so badass." And of course, she's like, "How'd you get footage that was this close? This is amazing."
Yeah, you're like really close and like have a crazy low angle. Like, how'd you do this? Yeah, she's gonna figure that out for sure. Back to her revealing it all to Shoma that she's kind of like reverse catfishing this guy. They put up some phone screenshots on the screen very quickly. If you pause it, you can read her conversations with a couple of the guys, and they're incredible. Like one, she's like, the guy's like, "Hi Sachi, are you into haikus too?" And she's like, "I've been meaning to write some, but I don't know where to start. Like, what's a good season word?" Well, my personal favorite convey what defines the season in Japan: the cherry blossoms, the leaves, fireflies, the snow. So that whole conversation is about haikus. And the other one is like, "Hey, thanks for the follow. Of course, I'm Sachi. Are you talking to me because you're interested in cacti too? Oh, for sure, I love them." And the guy replies back, "My favorite types are ball and barrel cacti. How about you?" And she replies back, "Oh, I don't know that many kinds actually."
She was doing the Lord's work. She was googling everything humanly possible, using all of her work skills to hook them all. She hooked them
so,
all.
so good. And then the Shoma dressing up was great, and just like that scene made me giggle thinking about like, what if another unaffiliated human walked in and just saw like a grown man dressed as a woman here to like reverse catfish a little boy. There's just so many questions that you just can't answer here that are going on. And then of course Hanto's there as well, so like we get the team up, which if you really think about it, Hanto just wore his regular clothes, so like Shoma maybe didn't need to like go that hard in the dress up, but here we are.
He was excited to do it.
He was. Um, and yeah, so leading up to, of course, we do get the new form for Hanto for Valen, but there's some cool stuff leading into this. So they do kind of the henshin in the hallway where they kind of confront the Granute boy, and I thought that was cool. We don't see a lot of like enclosed space henshin. It made it look very neat. And then they actually showed us how we transition from the hallway into like the larger parking garage where they fight, instead of just like jumping like they do in Super Sentai or most of the time in Kamen Rider, and then suddenly, hey, we're outside in the quarry. Like the monster breaks through the floor, they all fall through the hole, and then when they're in the large parking garage area, there's like rubble around that came from the breaking through the floor. It's like, holy cow! Like you actually showed the A to B to C here, and I couldn't believe that they did it. It was crazy.
I thought it was cool, like the for the now that they're best buds and God only knows what else is gonna happen here. I thought it was cool, like they got to do their henshins together, and they did like, of course, they said henshin and everything at the same time, and I thought it was a fun finale for that. Of like, no, look, we're friends now. Like, we don't have to run off and go
Yeah,
henshin by ourselves and come back. Like, they actually just got to do cool guy poses together and do their little things. And
team up time, baby. And yeah, speaking of team up time, we definitely are merging our powers very quickly. Shoma goes into the potato chip form, and Hanto quickly makes a chocolate fountain over over in this hole he finds. And then we dip the chocolate chip swords into the chocolate, which apparently makes them super strong for some reason.
well, it
And
makes them stop breaking. It makes them stop being as brittle because now
yeah,
they're forged in
in,
chocolate.
in chocolate. And then Hanto is rewarded by getting his choice of one of three Gochizo, and he chooses the donut Gochizo, and we get to see the new donut form of Valen, which is super sexy in my opinion. It's all shiny, and I love the look of it. He's got donuts on his head and around his shoulders. When he fights, like donut words pop up, and it's great. It's great. I really, really like it. it's goofy as all hell, but I think it looks good. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it fits in with the rest of the show. I appreciate that, like the finisher was he used donuts like a stack of tires and just wrapped
Yeah.
the monster in a stack of tires so that Shoma could do the finisher. When you said he could select his own Gochizo, you failed to mention that like Shoma was basically like in an arm bar and not really like should be in pain, stressed out, trying to hold this monster off. But of course, they present it in like a way that's easily recognizable as, hey, look, they're sharing Gochizas now, they're buddies, this is cool. So he just kind of stands there with all of them on his sword, and he's like, "Hey, which one do you want to pick? Which one do you think would be your favorite?" So then Hanto just stands there for like a couple seconds, and is just like, "I don't know, maybe this one. No, I'll do this one. This one sounds good." And then we got the thing. So like, it's just obviously to make it work for the show, it had to be a little slow. It was just ridiculous, like visually again, of like this monster's trying to bite Shoma, his sword's out, he's trying to like defend himself from getting killed. And just look at Jesus standing there like, hey, pick one of us. That'll be fun.
Yeah, they're just dancing on the edge of the sword while Shoma's just getting brutalized on the other end. I also really like in the henshin to the donut form, the sprinkles get added last. Like they fall on after the donut forms, but like they just get added to the top, which is very cool. It's a great looking form. I like it a lot. I wasn't super sold. Um, well, I guess I should say I was wondering what they would do with Valen upgrades, since he was kind of like his base form was kind of chocolatey. So this is great. This is a good, I think, a good avenue for them to go.
Now he's a chocolate donut.
Yeah, chocolate donut, exactly. It makes perfect sense. And then we got another week with the giant Gatling gun form. Like they're really using that to its full potential here, which surprises me.
Well, now at least like they're good enough friends where obviously there's a second person that can consistently buy time now. So like I feel like it worked better because his he has to like obviously spin up his little Gatling guns and it's slow and everything else. But I
Yeah.
feel like when you have a fast person with you, someone can be the tank then. Because like you can't just run like two clerics. We can run a cleric and a tank, so the cleric has time to cast spells and everything. And I feel like it works.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And then as you said, the filming happens, we go back and we show the sisters like, "Oh, so that's what happens. You're the guy who catfished you was an alien and the Common Riders took care of it. So, it's all good now." Um which yeah, can only happen so many times before Sachika's like, "Hang on. what are we doing here? I
I feel like
got you boys figured out."
I'm gonna say she already knows.
I think
I
she might,
think
yeah.
even before all this, I'm gonna say she already knows. If not, I think the filming is obviously the first step towards like she's not she seems flighty because she's a happy person, but she's not stupid. So I feel like her just laughing it off and them saying like ahead of time in their sexually charged convo, like Sachika would care about us exactly the same no matter what. It doesn't really matter. And now her asking questions of like, hey, how'd you get this sick film? I think it's just enough. All the teasers are there. It's ready to be revealed shortly here.
I think so. And then the last thing I don't think we've talked about yet in this episode, which I think is interesting, is of course Hanto gets hurt, and because now he's had this surgery, he can't really go to a regular hospital. So he's got to go get patched up by Suga, but like clearly still doesn't trust Suga. So he goes, gets the work done, and then just sort of like pieces out. Takes a phone call from Shoma and like is like, "Don't talk about it now. Like I'll come see you." um so I like that like Shoma has to, or sorry, I like that Suga has to like stay in the loop, but Hanto is still keeping him at like the furthest arm's reach that he possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. What
But
and like kind of tied to that too, like when the head stomach man,
uh-huh. Longo.
thank you. When he was talking either he was either monologuing or talking to Glada about it. He mentioned like, yeah, that little Gav's annoying. I see how Valen got his thing. He's like, it's not that he's good, he's just slowly getting experience, but we can still take him down. Like they're both definitely monitored, at least from the higher ups heavily. And I feel like that it's a nice touch, at least of Longo being like, no, we can probably still kick his ass, but like he is getting better, and we need to take care of this sooner rather than later because we don't want to have to worry about this down the road.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, we also saw Longo and Glada in their Granute head forms too. Like
Uh,
they,
for no reason. I think
yeah,
just to remind the people of what it was or that they actually have them.
yeah,
And it's
I think
just
so
funny
too.
that like their forms are just like helmets go on. So it's just funny that like they're both in like their best business casual attire. And they're like, "Oh, we can handle this. Don't worry about it." And they both just like basically put their helmets on and walk away.
Yeah, just so you remember, we are monsters. Yeah, so that's Gav episode 12. Certainly an interesting, fun one. It definitely was a fun one to watch, and it subverted my expectations for how all this secret identity revealing would go, which I appreciate in a show that we can very often predict.
Yeah, like they're still doing the show is still doing like the best version of a slow burn I think it could.
Yeah,
Like the main story beats were 12 episodes in. Like it slowly trickles every episode, but it never feels slow. Like I feel like today was the most effective way to do the next piece of this. Like we established that from last time, Valen was unmasked and Shoma was still him. And this time they just went a little bit further. It's like, okay, now Shoma and Valen, or Shoma and Hanto, whatever, both know who each other is. And now their next obvious step is like, well, what about Sachika? And like they kind of slowly move that forward. The twins again have another foot out the door, so to speak, or literally. And it's not like major jumps in any of the story pieces. It's just like it's like a book. It's like the next chapter of a book instead of just 3 weeks down the road and now this is extra crazy and insane and everything else.
yeah, I agree. So we're gonna jump over into some emails now. Our email address is cast@commonwritersucks.com. Once again, cast@commonwritersucks.com. If you would like to send us in an email, we got a few emails this week, so I wanted to make sure we hopped over here quick and started going through them because they're a couple of them are a little long, but they are very worth reading. So the first one comes in from Shade. Shade's got some fun information for us. Um, Shade says, first up, hello everyone. Hope you all had some donuts before watching Gav episode 12.
I
Did you
would never
know?
have a donut.
Although Americans consume almost 10 billion donuts each year, the highest number of donut shops per capita instead belongs to Canada, followed by Japan right after. That's got to be because Tim Hortons, right?
Oh
That's got to
yeah,
be
that,
the
that, that
main
that's their
reason.
national treasure.
Yeah. Okay. I opened the article that Shade linked, and it's an image of Tim Hortons at the very top. So that makes sense. Anyways, Common Rider. There's not a lot of big exciting news in this week's episode, but I am seeing trivia, worthy developments in future episodes, so look forward for that. For today, I'll just share some interesting stuff. So share some stuff I find interesting. Apparently, someone came to a wrestling event with this sign right here. So this is an image, I think, from an AEW show, that says Common Rider Gotchard greater than Common Rider Geets, hashtag Valva God. Have you seen, there's a trend, Toby, that's been going on in wrestling shows, a lot of times in AEW, but sometimes not, where people will bring um very specific inflammatory signs, but not about the wrestling show, about like video games and anime and that sort of like nerd pop culture. So like if you have a hot take about a video game, put it on a sign and go to like a wrestling show. That's been like the big thing recently. And this I think is clearly in that vein. First of all, horribly wrong. Gotchard, I don't think is better than Geets. I'm gonna stand on business and say that I disagree with that, having really liked both of those shows. But amazing that there's someone out there who decided to put that on a sign and go to a wrestling show. I love it. Apparently, Shade says that the person who did it took credit for it in the comments there of the Twitter post. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so it doesn't show me any comments apparently. So I will take your word for that. That's great. Um, Shade links a couple clips of Hodoro and Shoma's actors from the Baton Pass event that happened. Um, that got translated, and Shane says, I hope these two will meet in the show at some point. They genuinely could be best friends. Yeah, that I could see those two being like the best of friends forever.
If they ever want to do like one of the crossover movie things, I feel like throw those two and then KO together. Like just have the three dumbest boys all have like a slapsticky. Barely even has to be like a Common Rider movie. Like we don't need like the big bad monster or anything. Just do like slice of life with those three, and I feel like it'd be perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that'd be great. Shade says, here's some interesting trivia from the producer's blog. So, quoting the producer's blog, Shoma and Kazuna have been hiding the fact they're both common writers, but their identities have finally been revealed. Maybe a little sad that we'll no longer see the two of them interacting like at a comedy skit, but needless to say, the story will move forward with the revelation of their identities as its driving force. Please look forward to future developments. And a couple behind the scenes shots of the bent over the table scene. And Shade says, "So this is what an intimacy coordinator does." Quote: In this scene, the two of them talk about their pasts and share their feelings with each other. The scene is quite long, spanning 3.5 pages in the script. Furthermore, it's a scene that tests the actors' acting skills as they reveal emotions and show subtle changes in their emotions.
Well, when you mentioned it before, or like it did seem extended, I quickly like scrolled through like the timeline thing. That whole part of them in the room together in that first part was like 6 or 7 minutes long,
Yeah,
and the episodes we'll call 20 minutes on a good day. Like I guess kind of counting like the intro theme and everything else. So like it was definitely a huge part of this episode.
yeah, for sure. Definitely the main focal point. When we got to the Sachika um, revealing that she was like reverse catfishing the catfish, I was like, oh yeah, we have to like deal with that still in this episode. Like it felt like it was so focused on the two of them that I thought that's all we'd get. Like, oh no, yeah, we have to do like a whole other half of the show. There's some pictures, behind the scenes pictures of Shoma dressed up in his hilarious catfishing costume, even pointing out that he painted his toenails for it, which is great because he
I told
definitely
you
did.
that was
Yeah.
today's pretty feat.
Shade says, as people these days would say, slay queen. And then the next information here is the gavv suit fittings are well known for the word delicious. That is rarely used for Kamen Rider, and the Dormammu form was the one that received the most comments. The glossy chocolate part did well at stimulating the stomachs of the staff in the evening. A strong gloss can increase the difficulty in filming, such as reflections, but the production team made the wise decision that it is better not to lose the deliciousness points. This resulted in a texture different from the Chakodan form. Because the suit's design was quite difficult to imagine if you drew a picture of the front, we had to make a 3D CG simulation as we worked on the design of Valen's form. And of course, we are once again in awe of the skill of the modeling department who were able to create such a complex design. The form is packed with everyone's trial and error. At the end of the blog, they announced a new TTFC behind the scenes special. It'll be Shoma and Hanto's actors talking about the show while grilling some meat.
You see, like yeah, like something like that. Like that'd be perfect for like the three sweetest boys. Just have them all do something
Yeah,
basic life, chill. Have them do a podcast together, just bullshit like they're doing a podcast, like talk about their days, like get it all in there.
that would be the thing that would make me the most sad that I don't speak Japanese. That I wouldn't be able to just if it didn't get translated, that I wouldn't be able to just listen to that constantly. Because even this, just with the two of them, sounds amazing. And yeah, if we could toss in Hodoro in there too, and just yeah, give me just palling around. That sounds great. So Shade, thanks very much as always for the fun information. Our next email, Toby, comes in from Jordan. Jordan has written in to tell us about O's before. Jordan says, hi guys, it's been a little while since my last email, but now I'm back to talk more about O's info. This time it's about Kazari's mutation, the difference between core and cell metals, and the combo of Onx metals, the blazing combo. So again, if you're not on the Patreon, O's is the show we are currently watching, and we've had some questions about how all this works and what these metals do and what the combinations do. And why all of the monsters are different and slightly in how they work. So Jordan has, I think, already shed some light on some things for us. So we're moving on here now. Jordan says, first, let's talk about Kuzari using Mazul's cell metals to evolve. It should be stated that Greed's primary goal is to become complete, but they don't actually need their own metals to do it. If they have any 9 core metals inside them, then the buckle on their belt begins to glow, they gain a new power, and start to experience all 5 senses, as they are incapable of feeling them otherwise.
That's
Okay.
impressive. So
Yeah.
again, like my one of my favorite things, drugs.
We love them here. For Greed, their vision is distorted, taste is non existent, and sounds are muffled and almost never clear, with the exception of Ankh since he's using Shingo's body. Going back to Kazari, the most obvious difference is the yummy he was able to create. As you saw, it was a mix between a lion and a jellyfish. It even shared the characteristics of both types of yummies, that being it was formed within its host and how it was able to make a swarm of smaller yummies. Uh, this can also happen when 2 greed form a yummy from the same host. Next, I like to think it's obvious by now that core metals are much stronger than cell metals, as seen with Kamen Rider Birth. Cell metals disappear after one use. The best way to think about it is that while cell metals are batteries, core metals are generators. Excuse me. Finally, we have the full combo created from Ankh's core metals, Tajador, aka the Blazing Combo. It created from the Taka, Kujaku, which is the peacock, and Condor core metals. One thing that separates this combo from the others is that the motif isn't a group of animals, but just one animal. To be more specific, it's a phoenix. As seen on the symbol on O's chest, all 3 parts fit together to make one image. The Taka head also evolves into the Taka head Brave, with larger wings and red eyes instead of the usual green. This form also has a personal weapon called the Taja Spinner, which is capable of using other core metals to fire strong blasts at the opponent. This form's insert theme is called Time Judged All, which, unlike the other themes, is performed as a duet between Shu Watanabe and Ryosuke Miura, who is Ankh. So that's cool. And while on the topic of insert themes, I forgot to mention the last time that Sagazo's insert theme is called Sun Goes Up. So there's some O's information for you, Toby. You should be well versed the next time we watch O's.
I feel like I know everything about O's now.
And our final email, which is our longest one, but again, very interesting, is coming in from David. David says, long email about crossover stuff. TLDR, Toei has always been a bit weird with writer crossovers, but likes money, so I'm sure we'll get to see them in some form. So, hey there, Josh and Toby. Been a while since I've written in, but since you talk about your talk about the lack of a gavv/Gotchard movie and the potential end of the writerverse reminded me that time is a flat circle, I figured I'd give a briefish history of crossover/extended content in Writer to hopefully assuage your fears about Toei ruining the magic, as Toby puts it. I'll streamline this as much as I can, so I'll be leaving some things out, such as small instances of implied continuity that never amount to anything, and be focusing on Toei's broader approach to crossover content as it relates specifically to Writer. Before that, though, Josh, let me just say, as a fellow Hoosier, if you guys ever do a live show or panel at a con in state, I'll definitely try to make the trip out to go to it. I feel like there are less than like 100 tokusatsu fans in Indiana, so I got to show support where I can. Speaking of support, I also finally joined the Patreon. Thanks very much. Looking forward to going back through the back catalog. Might even pop into the Discord now and again, but I've always been a bit of a lurker online, so you probably won't see me around too much. Anyway, history lesson time. So, super happy that you joined up with the Patreon. I definitely understand the lurker feeling. I feel like that's me in most in most online places is like, oh, I like reading all the things that everyone says, but I just don't ever say the things. um, that's me for sure. But yeah, a fellow Hoosier, and
What a bunch of nerds.
we got one person now when we go to the Indiana Comic Con and we have our Tokusatsu panel. We have one person guaranteed in the audience.
I want to point out that that is factually untrue because he said if it ever happens, he would try the best he could to get there. So
I'll definitely try. That's a confirm.
Right. I'll definitely try. So like
a strong maybe.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm putting David down for a yes because of his strong maybe.
It's like the thing when like people complain that bands never come play the venue by their house, and then when the band comes play the venue by the house, they're like, "Oh, but it's a Thursday. It's like 8 o'clock though. Like, oh my god, I gotta work tomorrow. I can't go to this. Like, I really should." And blah blah blah. It's the same vibe.
I just need you to come play the venue near my house. That's what I need. You just got to come to me, and then David will follow.
Okay.
That's what's happening. Yeah.
If we can somehow start like the Indiana club of tokusatsu, I will make the trip out if we can get enough people there. I'll
Okay.
be the outsider.
See if I can get all 100 Indiana Tokusatsu fans together, and then we'll have the outsider come through, like he's Scott Hall, and that we'll do a whole con. We'll have a little
Ooh, yeah.
we'll do a little comment writer con. Anyway, David goes on. Writer more than Sentai or Ultra has gone through cycles of whether or not they want the shows to be connected. In the Showa era of the first 5 shows, which is Kamen Rider 71, Kamen Rider V3, Kamen Rider X, Amazon, and Stronger, they're all very explicitly connected. All 5 shows feature the same recurring mentor character and will occasionally make allusions to the previous writer or shows. Almost all the villain groups in this era are of the evil secret cabal variety, so the ongoing explanation as to why the old writers weren't in Japan was simply that they were off in other countries fighting separate cells of the villain organization. The movies from the time would have returning writers make suit only appearances, normally helping the current writer to fight off an army of revived kaijin. Conversely, the TV shows would actually get one or more of the previous writers to guest star and reprise their roles for a few episodes, commonly using the idea that they had returned to Japan to track down a particularly nasty monster of the week or help against a new villain general who they had fought against during their time abroad. After Stronger ended in 1975, every time Ryder would come back from hiatus, Toei attempted to set the new shows in their own continuities to varying degrees of success. Kamen Rider 79 started out as a pure reboot, but halfway through the show's run, the aspect was retconned, and the subsequent writer entries remained in continuity until the show went off the air again. In 1987, Rider returned again with Black. While Black is technically standalone, its sequel, Black RX, retroactively brings it back into the fold of the original shows. It wasn't until the start of the Heisei era where Toei finally got what they wanted. Starting with Kuga, the shows remained effectively separate for a decade. There wasn't the same job security aspect that you two often discuss with more modern writers. You had the main show, the summer movie, the hyper battle video, and maybe a TV special, all during the course of the year. Once the year was up, that was it for the current characters and actors. The main actor might get to make a very brief cameo in next year's movie, though never as their characters. They basically got the flow/back on treatment at the end of Gotchard. Supporting actors fared a bit better and might get recast as new characters between shows. And while modern movies often serve as a side story or epilogue to the show's main plot, during early Heisei movies, they were their own separate thing. Many of them were explicitly alternate universes. The closest thing to today's modern team ups was during the Ryuki Hyper Battle video, which is during a literal dream sequence. Agito shows up to help him Rider kick a villain. Then things finally started to shift in '07 with Den-O. Josh has mentioned this before, but Den-O was massively popular and basically gave rise to the modern landscape of Rider in nearly every aspect. Den-O was the first show to prove that there was merit/money in continuing to make media for shows past the 1 year mark, and has truly been the ultimate job security for many of the people involved. In the second movie, Climax Deca, which probably is the weakest one overall, was notable for being the first instance of the next year's writer being previewed in a movie. Because all the fandom old heads at the time did nothing but gas up how great Showa stuff was, especially all the crossover content, I remember the fandom was super hyped. And we were likewise disappointed when Kiva's appearance ended up being the direct precursor to the way the summer movie cameos are handled today. Still, it was a move in the direction that people had been wanting. Decade, as you might expect, was finally the tipping point. Though the show's whole recast new actor as alternate universe versions of old writers was received pretty poorly, the Black/Black RX episodes, where they did get the original actors back to team up with himself by playing both iterations of the character, are still considered all-time classics. By far the biggest thing that paved the way for Toei's writer crossover was the summer movie, All Writers versus Daishocker. As the name implies, that was the first time every writer was on screen together in 30 years. And taking a page from the Showa movies, everyone was basically a suit only cameo, with the implication that these were the original characters and not Decade's alternate universe versions. All Rider vs. Daishocker was the highest grossing Kamen Rider movie for 14 years, only being beaten by Shin Kamen Rider in 2023. It was at that point that Toei saw dollar signs and went full bore on extended Riderverse projects, making the spring movies a regular thing. Originally, they were reserved for Deno projects, but transitioned to big crossover projects as time went on, and then added the winter crossover movies. I'll spare you these specifics, as I could talk about the winter crossover nonsense from the post-Decade shows for a long time, but due to the landscape over the course of a year of Rider now looked like this. The new show starts at the end of August / beginning of September. The excuse me, the winter crossover team up movie would happen in December. In March / April, you'd get the big multi-franchise, multi-era crossover movie, which also might have a tie-in episode in the show. In July, you'd get a summer movie, which then featured the new writer to help set up for the next winter movie. Rinse and repeat. Also, throughout the year, you'd get one or two HBVs, the DVD / Blu-ray exclusive side stories, anywhere from 2 to 4 V cinemas, depending on how popular a previous show had been, and whatever exclusive web content they decided they wanted to churn out. TTFC and its sister service, Telasa, uh, only started making exclusive content in 2017, but since 2008, Toei had been releasing special tie-in net webisodes for the movies. By the time Geo rolled around, we'd entered a point where crossovers were the norm to an entire generation of fans. I distinctly remember how some older fans were even pining for the early days of Heisei when there were no crossovers or extra post-show media. Well, I don't think we'll ever go back to a time like that, especially since we just introduced another writer with world-hopping powers. We've been getting gradually less crossover / extended content for a while now. The last big spring movie was during Xade's run, and we've basically gotten only one V cinema a year since Geo. The 01 Cross Saber winter movie never happened due to COVID, so not having a crossover isn't exactly unprecedented. The winter movies themselves have changed pretty dramatically since the original Movie Wars 2010, and I really think the best ones are when they were able to get multiple returning actors, which isn't exactly easy. I also have to imagine, with how ambitious the TTFC Tel Asa crossover currently has been since the start of Reiwa, especially Outsiders, making the normal winter crossover might have taken a lower priority. The online stuff is filling out the crossover niche quite nicely for longtime fans, though to a new fan, it's pretty inaccessible. I expect that it is only going to continue as time goes on. Of course, this could just be a one-off occurrence, and next year we could be back to business as usual. But this is truly the end. But if this is truly the end of yearly crossover movies, then I hope they really go for broke the next time we get one. I've personally been waiting for Toei to give us a Reiwa Generations movie. I think it would be pretty cool if we could get all the main Reiwa actors back. And with the 7th show around the corner, I think that'd be a great opportunity for it. For context, 7 is kind of a special number for writer, since those 5 original shows had 7 writers, and is one of those things the franchise references on occasion. Finally, I want to end this with a small call out. Josh, the name Josh, the name of the double anime / manga is literally pronounced Fudo Pi, not Fudo Pi. The Japanese title is Futo Tante. Tante means detective or, private investigator. Pi. I get that it's written as Pi on the logo, but given that the main characters are literally detectives for hire and one of the show's main motives is noir fiction, I just don't know what else to say.
Josh
Not
needs
sure.
help sometimes. There you go.
I do. Not sure if you've watched Double personally. Hopefully, you guys do it sooner than later on the Patreon. Double is my actual favorite show, and I'm hoping that the movie does well enough for Toei to greenlight a second season of the anime. Yeah, I already got called out for this in our Patreon, David. So since you just joined up, you can now probably search back and find where that happened. But yeah, I've not watched Double personally. Don't really know a ton about it, and I've never watched the anime. So yeah, I that's my excuse for not knowing that it wasn't Pi, and then it was Pi.
But the exciting part that now that David is a Patreon on patreon.com/the comment writers, when we do switch shows, you can be part of the vote. And maybe we'll watch Double so Josh learns that's not Pi.
Yeah, I need you to come in and educate me by casting your vote for Double. But yeah, sorry, that was an extensive, I guess, history report, Toby, on the crossover stuff, but certainly interesting. It's ramped up over time. They
Yeah, I
have
mean, like I
increased.
always enjoy all the information dumps, so to speak, since I am 3 years new to this with no real background reference other than the random one-off shows we saw.
Yeah.
So like I mean, like he pointed out and stuff, like we said, at least to me, the new person, it seems like they're trying to ruin the vibe, but it sounds like it's been ruined before, and we always come
or
back out stronger on the other side. So
or at least it's been
who
like
knows?
kind of constantly changing. I don't know if ruined or like whatever. It's yeah. And for me, with Decade being like really the first Kamen Rider stuff that I interfaced with, like watched Decade and then watched like shows here and there from that point on. Um, yeah, like I mean, I pretty much only ever knew that hey, all the writers know about each other and like they're constantly in each other's worlds and like having crossover shows and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting that kind of we've gone sort of like highs and lows over time with how that stuff works. But yeah, again, thank you very much, David, for the email. Also, thanks to Jordan and Shade for their emails. Again, cast@commonwritersucks.com if you want to send us in emails as well. And yeah, Toby, I think with that, we're gonna wrap the show up. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
On YouTube, it's Tobes Plays. On Twitter, it's Life of Tobes, and on Blue Sky, it's something else that Josh still has to help me with. But most importantly, double check what it is real quick. It's also Tobes Plays on retroachievements.org, in which I become a top 10 percentile retro achiever. And I just really wanted to brag about that because no one's going to know if I don't tell anybody.
Yeah, truly impressive. Top 10% on
In
that site
3 months.
in three
In
months of
three
using it.
months, I've struck down 90% of my foes. And
Insane. Yeah.
it.
For me, of course, the YouTube for the show is youtube.com/prettydeece. That is the Comment Writers YouTube channel. And you can find me on Blue Sky. I'm at meek.lol. And Toby, you can find the show on Blue Sky as well at commonwritersucks.com. So we're both posting from that here and there. We're gonna post about all of our episodes and stuff as those come out as well. So if you want a source of information for the comment writers, that's where you get it from Blue Sky at the username at commonwritersucks.com. So you can find us all over there. And yeah, that's been fun. I've enjoyed having that feed and I think we're finding some new people over there on Blue Sky, which is pretty cool.
Trying to find a new groove.
Yes, the Emperor's New Groove. And we're gonna groove on out of here because that's gonna do it for us for this week for this longish episode. But we hope that you groove back right next week with us because we're gonna talk about some more Kamen Rider at that point. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.